Hi guys, I'm Shelley Book Fanatic. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to do my winter book haul. I've acquired quite a few books in the past few months. I think February and March. My last book haul was in January, and I want to show you which books I managed to obtain. The first book I want to talk about is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This is a book in the Penguin English Library Classics edition, and my boyfriend bought this one for me just as a present, and I haven't read this one yet, but I'm very excited about it. It is very beautiful. It has these actual realistic hearts on it. And Frankenstein is about a creature that is going to be created from I don't know what, but it is a creature with a beating heart, and it has its own brain, I guess, and we'll see where this goes. It is quite a thick book for that one tiny plot point, I guess, so I don't know what else is going to happen in here, but I'm very excited to find out. I'm also collecting these editions for Penguin English Library Classics, so they all look very pretty next to each other. This is the spine for it, and they all have this orange spine, and it's all just lining up next to each other with a different color, and then the orange spine next to it. It's very, very pretty. The next book I want to show you is one I have wanted for a very long time, and that is Becoming Clementine, the third book in the Velvet Jean series by Jennifer Niven. I also want the first two books in this edition, but I can't find it on Book Depository, so I guess I'll have to buy it on a website here in the Netherlands where they do have it. I also bought this one from there, and it is so pretty. I've read the first two books, but I read those as ebooks, and I couldn't find this one as an ebook, so I'm just going to read it physically, and because I love this series so much, I definitely want to collect it, so that's actually very nice. The first book is Velvet Jean Learns to Drive, and it follows this girl, Velvet Jean, in like the 1930s, maybe 1940s, in America. And she lives in this cute little isolated mountain village. It's obviously historical fiction, no fancy elements to it. And she is a very strong woman in her time. She learns herself how to drive while married to a man who is very present in his time. He's not beyond his time. He still believes that women shouldn't be driving, that women shouldn't really be doing anything. They should care for the kids and stay at home cooking and that kind of stuff. And Velvet Jean is not the typical woman. She wants to drive. She wants so much more out of her life. She wants to get out of this mountain village and become a singer at the Grand Ole Opry in Texas, I believe. And she definitely is an ambitious one, and she's really going for her dreams, and this series is so uplifting and so woman empowering, and I would really recommend you read it if you are into that kind of stuff. The next one is a book I have been long anticipating, and that is Obsidio by Amie Kaufman and Kristoff. This is the third book in the Illuminati Files series, and this is the final book in the series. I am buddy reading it with my boyfriend, who has read the first and the second book in this series. The second one we read together, and he loves the series just as much as I do. So we are currently, I think halfway through, over halfway maybe, and we are actually enjoying it. Not a lot has happened so far. We haven't really seen much of the characters that are supposed to be the main characters in this book, Asha and Reese, but I guess we'll see more of them soon enough. I'm guessing the plot will really take up at some point, and we'll just get to the ending and see how all of this is going to unfold. Illuminate is a book that is mixed media. It is made up of documents, so emails, chat messages, drawings, journal entries, that kind of thing. And it's really cool because you fly through it, and it is so different from any other book I have ever read. So it is really fast-paced, and you really get to know these characters, even though you think you don't, because you don't expect to bond with these characters just through documents, because you don't get to see them talking to each other and stuff. Maybe through these video entries, video footage that is being described. It is just a very unique book. It has all of these... The curse words are blacked out, by the way, which is also a very unique thing about this book. But it is not unlike anything I've ever read before, and I would recommend the series if you are into sci-fi. I haven't told you anything about the synopsis yet, I guess. Illuminate is about Katie and Ezra, and they are ex-boyfriend and girlfriend. They were both from this planet called Carenza, but they have to evacuate their planet because there is an invasion, and they both get on different spaceships. And the first book takes off from there. There are 3 ships at the beginning of book 1, and you have to find out for yourself what Illuminate is all about if you pick it up. But it is a very intriguing ride. The first book also has a deadly plague virus thing going on, and it's all very creepy and just beyond YA, I would say. It's YA because the characters are obviously like 17. The writing seems kind of adult, there is real gore in there and stuff, and it is so good, and I would really recommend you read it, and I hope I will love this series even more after I finish this book. Next up, I have another Penguin English Library classic, and that is Dr. Jekyll Mr Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. And this one is very short. The actual story was only like 75 pages, and then there is The Bottle Imp, which is a short story by the same author at the end of this book, which I also read, and there's also the usual essay at the end of the book by someone about this story. I really like the story. It is described as split personality disorder. I would not say it is split personality disorder. I'd say it's more of like a transformation. I'm not going to tell you about what really happens in this, because at the end of the story it gets all explained, so that will be a huge spoiler if I tell you what happens. But it's about Dr. Jekyll, who's actually Dr. Jekyll, but then this evil personality, Mr. Hyde, takes him over entirely, and it's really that you already know what's going to happen from the back of the book, so that was not really a spoiler. But I would not call this split personality disorder, because when Dr. Jekyll changes into Mr. Hyde, his appearance entirely changes. He becomes smaller in stature, his face entirely changes, so he's not really the same person anymore. That is not split personality disorder. Your whole appearance changes. Split personality disorder is more like your personality, I guess, but not your whole appearance. You don't get an entirely different face when you change personality. That is not what that is, so I would not think that was an accurate description. I like this cover especially. I think it's really cute. It fits in really well with the rest of the books, and I like this one. I've obviously read it, and I am definitely going to continue on with more of the Penguin English Library classics. I'm not sure if I want to read more about Robert Louis Stevenson, because I also read his short story and I thought it was kind of weird, kind of misogynistic, kind of boring as well. It was like 25 pages. It was like a quarter of this story. It was ridiculous. No, I wouldn't read anything else by this author. I think this was more than enough. The next book was also one I got for my boyfriend, and that is Miss Marvel Volume 4, Last Days. I am also collecting the Miss Marvel series. I hadn't read Volume 4 yet, so when I got this I immediately read it and I really liked it. This reminded me why I like the Miss Marvel series from the first volume on so much. Even though I started at like Volume 5 and Volume 6, I've already read those. I still want to collect those because I read those online actually, and I didn't really have them yet, so I didn't even know this was a series. I just started Volume 5, Volume 6 and I had no clue what was going on. But I thought it was very fun. I rated those like 4 or 5 stars, but I thought that this was so much fun, and this really reminded me of why I want to continue on with this series and why I like it so much in the first place. Miss Marvel is a Muslim Israeli American, I think, might come from another country, but it's from somewhere around there, and she is Miss Marvel. She also has to balance her high school life with her superhero duties, and this series follows her being a high school student, her best friend falling in love with her, and her other best friend not really knowing that she is Miss Marvel, and also dealing with her very religious parents who really can't find out about her because they would forbid her from fulfilling her superhero duties, which she must do. So a lot of this is handled in this book, and also some revelations are made in this book, so we're really progressing in the story, and I obviously already read Volume 5 and Volume 6, so I know what's going to happen, but I can't wait to reread those either. The next book is one of my favorite books of all time, and that is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I read this one maybe 2-3 years ago. I only rated 3 stars at the time. I think I would rate it the same about now, because I don't just rate my books subjectively. Like, I love this book, but I think if I look at it objectively, it is not the best book ever written. It is a thriller. It follows these students at this academy who all get together during Latin at their academy, and they have this sort of elite group with their teacher, and they convene together and have these really secret meetings, and this professor is really influencing them in a negative way. And I think that was very interesting, but I think this book is way too thick for what it was trying to do. A huge part of it was just boring, and obviously that was building up to a certain moment, which I eventually loved. I loved the build up and the moment where it was leading up to, but I think this book could have been much shorter, and I think a lot of people wouldn't rate this very highly because of that, because not a lot happens in this book. It's a lot of character development and just a lot of slow tension, slow build up to a particular moment at the end of the book. I don't think this book gets very high ratings. Some people absolutely love it, some people despise it, but I'm one of the people that actually really loved it. And I got this one from my boyfriend in the 20th anniversary edition, and I really think it looks so pretty. I'm very glad to have this in my possession now, because I read this as a library edition back in the day. Then one last book I did actually by myself, but my boyfriend bought, is Pecs by Sara Pennypacker. This is an illustrated book. It is a middle grade book. I don't really read middle grade, but I thought this was so cute. I saw it on Book Depository for a 10% discount for March, I believe. And I thought this sounded super cute. It's about a guy and a fox, and this fox is trying to find his guy back, and it's illustrated beautifully. It also has huge fonts, so you can get through this very quickly, but it has these kind of illustrations, and it's so pretty. It doesn't have illustrations straight on through it, it just has a couple. It's not a full fully illustrated book, but I am still excited to get through this, because I think I can get through this very quickly. It's only a book over 200 pages, and aside from that, obviously full on-page illustrations sometimes. So I really love how this looks, by the way. The cover is also very pretty. But yeah, middle grade. We'll see how I fare on with this. I am, like I said, not a huge middle grade fan. I don't particularly like middle grade stories. If I read a premise of a middle grade story, I'm like, oh, that sounds super cool. And then I read the book and I'm just kind of disappointed. So I hope that is not the case with this book. And it's not written like for very young, because that is kind of my problem with middle grade books. They're written very immaturely and over explain things, and I don't like that in books. So I will let you know when I read this in one of my wrap-ups what I thought about this. So these were all of the books I managed to buy / acquire in February and March. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books, or if you have any of these books, or if you want any of these books. I would love to know. Thank you for watching. Goodbye!